Well, welcome to another edition of In the Tank with Fish here at 93Q. And there's things that I run across in the community that, I began to wonder, what is that? I want to know what that is. And one of the things I ran across, it had been a few years back, was foundations and how they work. They're nonprofits in nature. And the first time I ran into it was with the rodeo. And so we had the rodeo. I understood that. And the rodeo is a for-profit. But I had some guests come on, and the organization, and I hope I remember it right, was Friends of the Rodeo. And it was a foundation where they were a nonprofit. And so sometimes it's a little hard to separate the two. We hear of things and we think, well, they're a for-profit company, but they're actually not. 93Q, we run into this all the time. People think we're commercial radio, and we are not. We're a nonprofit 501c3. And so it enables us to have an income that comes in that isn't like a for-profit station. So my guest this morning is Jeff Swanson, and I'm not going to use the initials. I'll ask him again what those are after that. But Jeff has a foundation for Adventist Health Rideout. And Jeff, when I met you, I was like, what? I'm looking at your card going, what is that? What is that? But because I had an experience before, I realized the foundation for Adventist Health Rideout has an operation and a mission of its own, and it is a 501c3. So anyway, welcome into the tank, Jeff.
Thank you, Fish.
I normally make you do a backflip or something but you're okay.
I did a couple running across the highway here to make it around the cars and get into the studio this morning.
So tell me a little bit about first off, what do the letters after your name mean, Jeff? And then explain the foundation, how that works for what you do.
Absolutely. So the letters after my name are CSPG, and that's just only on my business card. It's not after my name for real, right? My name's Jeff Swanson. CSPG stands for Certified Specialist in Plan Giving. It's just going through some training certification program, and it was actually offered by Cal State Long Beach is the program that did it. It was a year-long program to go through and get that certification.
And that helps you understand all the ins and outs, tax-wise, or all that with giving, right?
Well, especially around planned and estate giving bequests and the law that has to deal with bequest trusts, those types of structured gifts.
Trust.
Right.
Yes.
Really, there are other laws that are around charitable giving too. The IRS has several, you go up there, publications that talk about what you can deduct and what you can't deduct and how much you can deduct and when you can deduct it. But really, nonprofits and charities and churches and universities and schools, they're not powered by, government dollars and corporate dollars by and large. It's charitable dollars that augment, whatever their tuition or other revenue is to keep them afloat and keep them viable in our community. And so I look at a foundation in this sense. And there's many types of foundations too. Corporate foundations, there's private foundations, there's family foundations, and then there's foundations that are affiliated or associated with another nonprofit entity. And that's the case with the Rideout Foundation. We exist to support healthcare in our community, and that is predominantly through the work of Adventist Health and Rideout the hospital.
See, I knew you were the right guy. I knew you were the right guy. Bring this guy on. He can explain it. And it's really, anyway, to me, it's really a big deal, when someone is able to find an entity that they are very comfortable with. I want to support that. And it's usually based on a sense of mission. It's based on a sense of, I can get behind that. There are people that help support 93Q because they understand community radio, right? And so you working with your foundation, working with Adventist Health, what is the mission statement that people really can kind of get behind, Jeff?
I think Our actual mission statement is enhancing the health of our community through philanthropy, right? Pretty straightforward.
That's cool.
We look to support programs that enhance health, and we do it through charitable giving. So there's a lot that our hospital does in the community, but there's other entities in our community that have a similar allied mission to support health. You take the food bank, for example. Mm-hmm. The food bank does great work and exists to support the Yuba Sutter community. It's a resource that 750 to almost 1,000 of our Rideout patients, upon discharged, rely on the food bank for food.
Wow.
To help them stay well or get well post-recovery. So it's a partnership that we're delighted with to see our entities supporting patients upon discharge. So the Rideout Foundation, we fund the food bank because their mission is aligned with Adventist Health and Rideout in supporting patient care. So we look for opportunities like that are partnership to strengthen other nonprofits in our community around health. We're not solely restricted to just supporting the hospital.
So are you connected with Blue Zones?
We are connected with Blue Zones.
I only bring that up because I had them on the radio and thought, Blue Zones, right? Because I knew the guy that started, and I was like, yeah, I'll give you a radio spot. And it happens to me a lot where then I find out what they do, right?
Yeah.
And I was online and got an email from them. And the reason I thought about it is because it was talking about they have menus for healthy eating. And I was like, well, I can cook a little. I can try this, right? Eat a little better, right? So I wonder when you started talking about that, if you get the food from the food bank and then a menu from Blue Zones and you can cook your own food, you're in, right?
That's probably a great idea to, connect some of that and create some menus. That's a great opportunity that Blue Zone should definitely tackle. And I think you hit on a key point. You said community, right? Mm-hmm. Blue Zone's focused on overarching, impacting community health, right? Through changing attitudes, behaviors, awareness. We're the same thing. We want to engage and change community health and improve and sustain community health by supporting those programs and projects that we feel are underfunded or need additional awareness and support in our community.
Jeff, how did you end up where you're at? Were you born here? Are you from this area? Where are you from?
Well, first of all, I mean, anyone that's gotten involved in it, you yourself, think about, how would you ever envision that I'm going to be involved in a charity or start a charity or, get involved in a nonprofit? Most of, when I was going to school, we didn't have, I'm going to take a nonprofit course and, get a degree in running a nonprofit. They were just starting to come out back then. And so, I went to school to be, attorney. I mean, I was going to go to law school. I was going to get in, and then, I was also passionate about education. Those were the two things I was focused on. Is I'm going to go in education or law. And I ended up going into neither because I got involved early on working for in higher education, working for a foundation in philanthropy to raise money for higher education. So it was kind of one that you stumble into. But if I go even further back, I grew up. I was born in Michigan. Grew up in a couple different places, but most of my years were up in a little town called Traverse City, which is up in the north of Michigan, right in with cherry capital of the world. I know there's other places we'll argue, but we were known as the cherry capital of the world. So you had your peaches, your plums, your apples, your cherries, and fruit for all seasons. And a great place to grow up as a kid because we had the bay and Lake Michigan nearby, but pretty much a farming community. And, we raised everything that you could, goats. So I ended up coming out to California for college because my grandparents were out here and I'd been out here many times in the winter. And who wouldn't want to be in California after a Michigan winter? So
I was thinking, were you one of those kids? I know I was. That I'd listen to the radio in the morning waiting to hear if it was a snow day or not. Because a snow day meant I wasn't going to school.
Well, snow day, we'd look out on the road and say, "Are the drifts high enough that the school bus can't get through? Yeah. Please blow harder because you need the wind to make those drifts over the road." And then the buses would say, "We can't make it." And Dad, no, you don't take us down to the next road that's cleared yet.
Yeah,
we can't make it. We can't walk that far. Snow days.
So California,
were a big thing.
When you came out here, was it Southern California?
It was.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay, imagine, you're a kid growing up every winter, you get, you're lucky to have a sunny day in January when the Rose Bowl is playing, right?
Oh, yeah.
But you turn into Michigan playing USC in the Rose Bowl and you see everyone in shorts and T-shirts and you're like, why am I not there? Am I going to go to University of Michigan or am I going to go to Southern California? I think, I'm going to become a trader and I'm going to leave and go plant some roots somewhere else.
So you were sitting in the bleachers at USC rooting for Michigan.
No. I didn't. No, I didn't end up going to USC. I ended up going to a little college in Southern California called Loma Linda.
Oh.
And they had at the time 2 campuses. They had a health sciences campus where their PhD and MD programs were. And then they had a smaller campus in Riverside that was their undergraduate liberal arts. And so I went to that campus and was studying as pre-law. Living in a little apartment and near campus, and spent my 4 years there. And as I was getting ready to graduate, I said, well, I got to go on and get a master's degree. Mm-hmm. I might as well do that now. And so I just started my master's program, and I got a job, and I was working in business supply and working for retail, wherever I was making ends meet. And I saw a posting for a grant writer at the university campus. And I was like, I can write a term paper. I can, I've spent so much time in the library, I could do that. And so I applied for the job, gave some writing samples, and I got a job as a grant writer for Loma Linda and did that for about 7 years, writing National Cancer Institute's NIH grants for the main hospital campus.
That grant writing is like unicorns, right? You're trying to find somebody that can really write a grant because the requirements are really, really hard. They're not easy. I mean, you have to be able to write. No joke. But you have to totally understand the grant. That's a difficult job. So
it is. I mean, back then, we had just had. You get your information on dial-up, right? You had the old dial-log phone and download and pull the information in, and it would take you 60 minutes to download 30 pages of whatever you were trying to pull in from GuideStar or the IRS to find out, or the grant application. It was early days where you weren't getting on their website and getting help. It was a published book that was for the grant that you had to go through and sift through before you applied. But those grants, you're right. I mean, it takes a team to write some of those grants, right? You can't have, because there's so many different areas, you have to have several specialists to
that really
know that topic that you're applying for. But what it takes is someone that can take all of their information and make it sound like it's coming from one institutional voice. So you don't have the disparate, writing styles and everything within the document. And then certainly I learned that being loquacious is not a good trait for grant writing. Brevity is key. You got to get your point right up front. And in fact, there was a joke once that says, you want to put your request, your budget, and everything on the front page rather than saying, you want the shock value. You're asking for how much? For what? Oh, now I got to read this to see what you're really going to do with the money. I mean, you really got to get someone's attention, and then get them to go through and read the whole grant, because many grant applications just kind of die on a pile, and don't get, really an opportunity to be fully reviewed if you don't, get the reviewer's attention.
In the military, they had a writing style, and it was called bluff, bottom line up front.
That's it. That's exactly what it was.
It was, bluff. You put that in there so that the commander, whoever's reading your report, is like, oh, okay, that's what this is about.
You want this for this? Yeah. No, make a decision quickly. But, you put it in the back and they got to struggle through to get and find it, then they're going to be really upset when they say, I wasted all my time and this was an easy no.
I do want to tell you, backing up just a little bit, you said that you initially wanted to study law, right? Be a lawyer. And this morning I had Dr. Falarsani from the Marysville Unified School District on. And during the course of the conversation, she said, well, I had planned on being a lawyer and I ended up a teacher. And it's like, I don't know about else. I changed my major 3 times before I ended up with a major in business. But yeah, that happens. And I hope anybody that's listening realizes just because you think that's what you want to do in life, you could actually end up changing your major and ending up with something that's much more gratifying than what you would have done.
Yeah, I was a history pre-law major, so I loved history, and then tying that to law. But I really got tied into education. I really love education from the standpoint of supporting teachers, classroom, and educating the next generation. And if I wouldn't have been here, I definitely would have been in a classroom.
So, how did you end up in Yuba City, Marysville? How did you end up here?
I think you've got to go way back to
Michigan.
how I even got into philanthropy. And so my dad, he was kind of one of those individuals that made education a lifelong learning. He did his undergraduate. Was going to be, was a minister for a couple of years and then decided to go back to school and get a master's degree in public health. And then he went and got a PhD in public health when I was going to college. So, he was someone that, I certainly saw that the value of education, how important it was. But he also started nonprofits, so I did, unlike other kids, I got a glimpse early on. I must have been 7 or 8 years old. And I remember him, I'm doing a mailing list. I'm sending out to all of, our supporters and friends of the nonprofit. And, he'd bring this whole printout of address labels and letters. He says, I need you to help label and seal the envelopes. And so we'd sit around on the floor and with my dad and do the mailing, right, as a kid. And, got to understand how important it was engaging your audience, making sure you're communicating the right message. And number one, always being transparent and honest with what the organization is trying to accomplish and how someone can engage and help and support it. And another time as a kid, we had an opportunity to do a mission trip to Haiti. This was back at the time when Papa Doc was the dictator of Haiti, but he was letting medical teams come in different areas. And so we went in a medical team one Christmas, but we had to raise our own airfare money to get there. And so I was probably 15 or 16 years old. My parents said I could go, but I had to raise $400 for my round trip ticket. And so I remember, just like, I learned with my dad, getting a list of people that I thought might support me, writing a letter out, labeling, sending it out.
How old were you?
And I was about 15, 16 years old.
Like primed for what you do.
Right. And so, and then I helped another friend of mine that was also trying to do the same thing to go. And so together, both of us raised our money and got the support to go. And it was a incredible experience to deliver healthcare, vision, dental, and just regular checkups to the people of Haiti. And that also showed me the power of philanthropy at a young age, because we had people donating their glasses. You went and got a new pair of glasses. Yeah. People were donating their old pair and to send down to Haiti so someone else could have a chance at vision. And to see a little kid who had never had a pair of glasses at my age, at 15, 16, now be able to see, exactly. Knowing they're going to be able to read, knowing they're going to be able to have an opportunity like that. I mean, that's pretty impactful. So I think I had enough things early on that kind of created that emphasis to that gravity to pull me in that direction.
I've done mission work and been in poor countries. I had friends, Walt and Darlene Berger, who were missionaries to Haiti, and the stories they would tell, that is a poor, poor country. And how much of that experience, Jeff, do you think, once you get to see that and see the good that can be done from simple things like that, how much did that really begin to bring direction in your life?
I certainly think that every one of our young teenagers, if they could take a mission trip abroad,
I believe the same thing.
would change America, because they would bring back such an appreciation for their community and what they have, and that they have the power to make a difference, right? If they can see themselves making a difference in a country like Haiti for 2 weeks, what could they do in their own community? Absolutely. So I certainly believe that, it impacted me. I mean, when I left, my suitcase was almost empty. I brought back a few gifts for some people that donated and supported, but all my clothes, I was wearing one pair of clothes. My winter jacket that I was going to wear at the airport when I got back to Michigan, I was wearing no jacket because I'd given that away. I'd given all my toiletries away. We stayed at a college because it was their winter break, college outside Port-au-Prince. And as the students were coming back, you saw what their needs were I can't take this stuff back home. Someone else needs it more than me. Right?
Exactly.
And so it definitely changed you and makes you appreciate the very little things that you have. Hey, having hot water is pretty nice. Taking cold mountain water showers every morning that is about 55 degrees, makes you really appreciate, what you have.
You think I got this fancy shower, and it's just a pipe coming out of the wall.
It's a pipe coming out of the wall.
There's no head on it, just a pipe, and you're like, and it's cold water, and I've slept on dirt floors. Literally, they polish the dirt.
Oh, it's like concrete.
And so it's like, and it's clean. I mean, it's clean, but it's still dirt, and it's still hard.
The dorms were just cinder block with metal roofs, and we had a door, but underneath the door, lizards and spiders would be coming in. You walk to the shower, and you open the shower door, and there'd be a wolf spider that's probably as big as your hand, sitting there on there, and just, you just take a shower. They enjoy the water too, and leave you alone.
So how did you, when you came to California? Right?
So I came as a student.
Education.
Came as a college student.
Did you stay here then?
I did. So I think my parents had come out as my dad was doing his doctorate degree. My older brother had stayed in Michigan, and he was at University of Michigan. My younger brother was still in high school, so they stayed as he finished high school, but I stayed and got a job after college and stayed in California and worked in higher education, healthcare, community nonprofits for about 20 years before I came up to Yuba City, Marysville.
What brought you here?
I think timing, but also connection to family. And you look back and when, my wife and I came up and spent a little time in the community, I said, this is like where I grew up, right? Michigan's pretty flat. We don't have a lot of mountains. So having the buttes and the mountains nearby, but it's a flat, almost like a floodplain too, Michigan. I mean, the water table's certainly really high. We have standing water in the winter when it rains heavy because we've got lakes all around us. It's kind of like having the rice fields, in your backyard. That's how I grew up. Pull out the canoe and get out to feed and water the goats because we're in 6 inches of water,
I was born in Brooklyn, but I was raised in St. Louis. And so I feel like because of where Yuba City, Marysville is in this community, we're on an island. We're surrounded by ag.
Yes.
And so to me, it has a Midwest feel.
It does.
It's different than, because I lived in Orange County, And I worked in Orange County 10 years. It's different. It's just very different. This area of California is more Midwest, And so, there is a different feel. So it has a homey feel, if you will. Yeah. The only thing it's missing is the Cardinals. You have to have St. Louis Cardinal baseball out here. I mean, I'm just kidding. Well, maybe we can get the Cardinals to move out after the A's. I'm still ticked about the Dodgers moving out of Brooklyn. I got to get over that, right? So, well, definitely had to put my Dodgers fandom on the back burner moving up here. Oh, yeah. But again, I had to put my Detroit Tiger fandom on the back burner when I moved out there, because I think the year after I moved out here, we had the
we had the Dodgers winning a World Series. So, with Kirk Gibson, who was a former Tiger, and I had to cheer for Gibby and slowly become a Dodger fan over the years. But I can let that go because my first sports love is hockey. So, hockey's number one.
Yeah, so you grew up in the ice and snow. You really
we did.
And so ice skating.
We would freeze our backyard.
Yeah.
We would make snow berms. We'd take the hose out there during the day, flood it with Dad's permission, of course, flood it, and we'd make 6-8 inches of ice, and then we'd skate on it. When it got all chopped up, we'd flood it some more and play on it. And, our skates would break. We'd pull an old pair of figure skates out and file it down and use those. We'd just, play until dark.
Zamboni, did you?
Didn't have a Zamboni, and we didn't have a great company called Play It Again Sports where you could recycle your sports. That was a great company. I don't know whatever happened to them, but as a kid, you'd go to garage sales and try to find old skates that would hopefully fit you for the next season, and go out there. Your shin guards were cardboard or whatever else you could find to protect your legs from the hockey sticks and pucks. But fun, man. Come in and you're numb and ready to go in the morning and do it again.
I know. Yeah, it's a whole different world. I can remember walking down to the bus stop, and you take a shower in the morning. You'd walk down, your hair would be frozen, right? Because it's so wet when you go. Your hair would be frozen solid. You're like, wow. Anyway,
I definitely remember that as a kid going to school. But
so Yuba City in particular, when you came here, did you come with the foundation, or did you come somewhere else? And
I came for the foundation. Yes. Okay. So I had worked in San Bernardino, LA, Orange County for 20 plus years. After I left Loma Linda, I worked for Claremont Graduate University and the Claremont Colleges. And then I took a job with Cal Poly and worked for them twice.
Wow.
Started in their College of Engineering and did philanthropy, fund development, grant writing, and then came back and joined them after a couple of years at another institution as an associate vice president of philanthropy. Then I went down to Orange County for 10 years as a vice president of philanthropy for the Orange County Community Foundation. And in many ways, I think what the Rideout Foundation is kind of a community foundation around health, right? For our community. Whereas the Community Foundation funds everything, any type, environment, health, education, you name it. They fund a broad range of things, but we're focused really on health and well-being here. So I think it really attracted me to help the Rideout Foundation kind of be that for this community, to be the community health foundation of this community, and really focused on bringing more health resources and supporting the health resources that we already have, bringing that to our community. And, the fact that my parents lived nearby, they were up near Mount Lass and had retired and had been up there 16 years. My uncle had been living in Red Bluff for about 15 years. My aunt had lived in Red Bluff for about 10 years. They moved, my dad and his brother moved her out from Illinois about 10, 15 years ago, and she was out here. So we had family in the north. We'd been spending summers up here with the kids, bringing them up to my grandparents and making our trips to Portland regularly to see my brother and his family. And, we'd gotten to really know and love Northern California as well. So it kind of felt right at the right time. My last son was graduating high school. And he's going off to college. So there was kind of like, it felt like the right opportunity to kind of make a change and do something different. And I think the timing worked out. The Rideout Foundation's been here since 1974 in one form or another.
When did you actually start there? How long have you been at the foundation?
Since 2018. I've been at the foundation since 2018.
So you were in the foundation during COVID.
Yes, I was.
Had to navigate that and.
Yeah, and it's unprecedented. I mean, we know it from the community standpoint, but what our nurses, physicians, caregivers, employees, associates, went through, they not only had, their own livelihood, their own families affected, but they were taking care of all of our families, in the hospital and and when they needed care. And I mean, we've said it before, and they're heroes. They really are for what they have gone through for our community through COVID. And I want to say, though, the community's response was also phenomenal. I mean, we hit that, in March, and in the next 90 days, we had thousands of pieces of PPE, gloves, masks, respirators. I mean, that were being donated by our community. Farmers were bringing, bunny suits. We had, the local casino, Hard Rock, they were donating, boxes and boxes of PPE, things that we needed to make sure we had enough to care for our patients.
I think this
because the supply chains were so affected.
Yeah, I think this community is unlike anywhere I've ever lived, and I've lived all over the world. But I mean, I just love it here for that very reason. This is the most giving community. I
agree, and people.
Unreal how much. And even when things haven't been ours, the fires that were at Paradise, we've got people here gathering food and taking it up there, taking people into their homes and into areas down here that were displaced from that fire. And to see the community constantly not just reach out for their own, but out, just speaks volumes about being here.
And that's what philanthropy is. It's the love of your neighbor. It's the love of your fellow man or woman. That you'll go and do and go beyond yourself and your own needs to support and care for someone else at that moment. That's philanthropy. And I think people think, it's, if someone's not giving $1 million, you're not making an impact. You know what? You give a $100 gift and you support a cancer patient going through cancer care with that $100, you're making a life-changing impact in someone's life. And so it's, you give what you can, where you can, when you can. And that's how to really gauge a community. And I think we have a rich philanthropic community because of that.
Yeah.
Because it's very often that I don't hear a lot of people say no. They may say, I'll help when I can, or I'll help you here, but they don't necessarily say, no, I'm not philanthropic. I don't want to give.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm always reminded of the Bible story about Cain and Abel, right? And then it's saying, am I my brother's keeper? The answer to that question is yes, we all are. We all are brother's keeper. We're all responsible for each other in the end, right? And it's like I just see that a lot more here, right? I just see it all the time. Well, I'll take care of that, and here, let me take care of that. It's funny. I mean, you'll see people go through a drive-through and pay for the people behind them, right, or whatever, and you're kind of like, wow, how often does that happen? Quite frequently here.
Absolutely,
that pay it forward mentality. That I'm not that I have so much, but people even give out of. When they don't have a lot.
Yeah.
So it isn't just quote unquote wealthy people giving a portion. We do have some wealthy people in this area who are very giving to different entities. But we have individuals who don't have a lot, and yet they're giving to others. I think of veterans. Veterans, more often than not, they'll say, well, hey, do you need it? Just say, give it to somebody that needs it. Yeah. And they need it, right? Yeah. They're like, give it to somebody else, right?
Yeah, no, you're very right. I mean, I certainly was struck by that. And, I've been like I said, I worked in Southern California for 20 years. I never had one person ever buy my coffee or something, we go through a line before and pay it forward. When I moved here, I think in the first year it happened 3 or 4 times, literally. I mean, and so when someone's got a mindset and they look back at you in the rearview mirror and say, you know what, that person could use a cup of coffee. I mean, that speaks volumes.
Yeah.
That speaks volumes.
Yeah. So as you look forward, what is the foundation working on now? And one more time, I want to reiterate that the foundation is not Adventist Health Rideout Corporation. It's a separate entity that supports health in our local area, right? And so what do you see happening for the foundation? What are its needs? Where is it going? And where do you guys see the greatest needs? You mentioned the food bank, but where else?
Well, certainly we've been around since 1974 in different forms. We were reincorporated in 1987. In 1992, we became the Fremont Rideout Foundation. So you had Fremont and Rideout working together. Their foundations became one in 92, and then in 2018. When Adventist Health and Rideout merged, we became an independent entity as part of that affiliation. So we're an independent entity. We've got 15 community board members that serve on our board, all volunteers, unpaid volunteers that support the foundation. But we still maintain a close connection with Adventist Health and Rideout and in supporting the healthcare needs in the community. So we have funds that we have permanent funds that have been set aside to support certain programs, but we've also got operational funds that are given annually that we try to put to work immediately to support the needs of the organization and the community. So it's kind of like if you go back to that biblical story, remember the talents, and they gave someone 10, they gave someone 5, and gave someone 2. Well, you don't want to bury your dollars and just save it for a rainy day. We believe as a foundation that we want to put the dollars that the community entrusts into us back to work for the priorities that are needed in the community. And so we're certainly really excited about some of the initiatives that Adventist Health and Rideout is looking at to invest in cancer care, cardiology. They're working on some upgrades to every single one of our ORs and cardiovascular ORs that is going to be critical to support patient care for trauma, for accidents, for surgery, vital. Right now they're looking also at making sure those ORs are ready to handle robotic surgery as well, so we can bring that to the hospital here in our community. So you won't have to travel to the Bay Area or to Sacramento to access those. If you're in a traumatic situation, they can treat you and they can use the newest techniques with the best surgeons right here in your home. So we don't have to airlift you and send you somewhere else. And I think it's important to have care close to home. So I think the foundation is always looking at how can we enhance care close to home. That's why we have very strong support for the Cancer Center, because it keeps that cancer treatments close to home so you can stay close to your family and not have to travel outside of the area for that care. But the same thing inside the hospital. We've got to keep investing in technology and resources that will attract and help us keep the best physicians here too. Because that's a challenge as well. We need to have more primary care here in our community. We need more pediatrics. We need more doctors that are focused on senior care and rheumatology and other areas that support the care of our seniors in our community, because there's a dearth of that. Mental health. Supporting mental health in our community is also a priority. And then the foundation's always been focused on the work of Adventist Health and many community partners and in trying to meet the needs of our homeless and housing insecure families that are out there on the street. I mean, our street nursing program, those are amazing. And Fish, someday you need to go out on the road with them and see what they do every day and how they care for our homeless population. I remember the first 3 months where this medical van was put into work, that one of our nurses said they found a 3-week-old baby girl living in the river bottoms. Never had seen a doctor yet. The mom hadn't seen a doctor post-birth. I mean, this is happening in our community, and those children need our care and support as well. So I think they're the front lines. I mean, they're going outside the hospital and trying to meet people where they're at and making sure they have access to preventative care and other support.
We had on the air, the nurse that's in charge of that.
Okay.
And then the nurse that was in charge of maybe they were doctors. No, the one was a nurse. I think it was a doctor. Anyway, in charge of the emergency room operations.
Oh, Teresa.
And it was it was really great to have people see the other side of it. You're not the one going in. You're the one on the other side. And then in terms of going out, I don't think people knew that they were doing that, right? Sometimes we get a little closed in our community and we think, well, everybody knows that. But everybody doesn't know that. Everybody doesn't know there's a street nursing program. Everybody doesn't know what a foundation is and what you do. And I'm always looking for that because of that. I want people to know all the good stuff that's going on in our community. I say this about nonprofits. Where does the money come from and where is it going?
Yeah.
And that's always, I mean, in our case with community radio, I got asked that question yesterday. It's like, well, this is how income comes in, this is how it goes out, because people want to know what is happening. But I think even more importantly than that, that's kind of the financial side. What changes are made because of it, right? Is it being effectual? Right, is what we're doing making a difference? And they say of the kids nowadays, millennials, right? That they say, well, they always accused every generation of being lazy or whatever, right? But Gen X produced more entrepreneurs than any generation. And the millennials will take a job for less money if they know they're making a difference. Now, that's an interesting trade in a world that's got a ton of nonprofits that you can make a difference with, you know? And so when you look at it, what differences, what things like maybe even personal people that you guys have helped that for you has went, this makes it worth it. I would do this every day because of that.
Yeah, I think that's you hit on a great point that, where the money comes from. It comes from grateful patients, by and large, and grateful families who have received care and have appreciated the care and want to, again, do that, pay it forward and help someone else. That's by and large where the support of the foundation comes from. Yeah, there's grant opportunities out there. We give a very loyal and supportive corporate community that sponsors and supports our events. And I think the real momentum is the grateful patients that have received care. And it's that ability to support them in their gratitude and philanthropy that we have to be focused on, and stewarding that support and making sure we're making an impact and investing the dollars for long-term benefit in the community. So while we do a lot to support patient care and invest in technology and resources, we also want to make sure that we're seeing long-term change and impact in other areas. So that's why, street nursing is important, but programs like nursing education, if we don't provide those young people with opportunities to say, you can be a nurse, you can be a physician, you can work in healthcare, here's a career path for you, and provide gateways for them to get into Yuba College, to get into programs where they can learn and be successful, we're going to always face a challenge of not having enough nurses, physicians in our own community. We've got to grow our own. We've got to invest in the pipeline that does that, or healthcare is always going to face challenges on just having the right people in those jobs. Yeah. And I'd much rather, see 26 new or 36 new nurses graduate from the local college and come work at Rideout or other healthcare entities in our community than have to recruit 30 from other parts of the state or outside the area who don't have the roots here in our community. We got great nurses and doctors that have moved to our community and have become part of our community, but I think we miss opportunities not to make sure we're providing the door of opportunity to our own in our community. And I think that's an area where we need to, as a foundation, Adventist Health and other providers and partners need to come together and solve that once and for all for Yuba Sutter.
I think sometimes when we think of sending someone to a junior college, we think, well, that it's not expensive. But to the person entering into a nursing program and having to work, and because it's not an easy program to graduate from, right? And so having that support, a scholarship, having something happen where they know they're behind them, and then knowing that in that industry, there are jobs. You're not going to get to the end of your college education in nursing and not have a job.
Yeah, and I think we can get interest in nursing education. We can strengthen interest in nursing education. We can have plenty of jobs and opportunities after, but we need to open up the pipeline or the friction points and make sure more kids are getting in. So do we have enough instructors? Do we have the right technology and classroom space? If we can only bring 30 new or 40 new nursing students, how can we double that and make it 80 every year? How can we really meet the demand for nursing? Because there's a wait list to get in for college. We have students that are waiting and can't get in. We've got to open those doors wide and get everyone in that wants to be involved in healthcare into that pipeline, and then get them employed locally. That's going to transform community.
Well, I just have to tell you, I knew bringing you in when I met you that we were going to find out a whole lot more. I want to thank you for, Jeff, for talking about how you arrived at that point. And I always think of young people that are in a decision-making process of, what am I going to do with my life? How can my life make a difference? And from the little kid skating on the ice till now, you've made a difference already. I'm not going to say how old you are. I'm not guessing there. I'm just saying that already, and yet you have things in front of you because of the occupation you're in.
Yeah, and I'm always careful to say I'm really pleased to be a facilitator, because the real power is someone else. Someone else, I give my own gifts and I support my own charities, and some of them are related to healthcare, but it's someone else who, for the first time, makes a gift that transforms their life, and that's powerful to see.
Yeah,
I remember one year, just to bear with me for one little story, when I worked back at Cal Poly, we had an alum who grew up in Indio, and his mom drove a beet truck, and bringing beets out of the field. His dad left when he was 2. So he grew up a single mom, went to school, had 1 or 2 teachers that took an interest in him, said that you've got something here, you should go, become an engineer. He came to Cal Poly and didn't get in. So he went into the agriculture program and then proved that he could get good grades, transferred over to engineering, graduated from engineering. And even then, it was a struggle for him, as coming from a single parent home and not a lot of extra resources. Drove a cab at night to make ends meet because he didn't have other places to stay too. Just one of those stories. And he made a transformative gift to Cal Poly and funded a student laboratory for student projects, for engineering projects. And it was $1 million that he gave. And this was about 35, 40 years. When he made the gift, there were tears in his eyes, right? Because he knew the journey that he had gone on. It's the same thing in healthcare. Others that have gone through a journey where they face some of the most traumatic family or personal points in their life, but still think enough I'm going to invest in the future of healthcare or to someone else. That's powerful. I mean, and that's really the foundation's sacred duty. I mean, we can facilitate that philanthropy. We need to steward that, but we also need to leverage and make sure that philanthropy kind of lives on, and that story is replicated by the next person. And so I get a lot of joy out of that. And I love sitting down with people and learning their why, what their passion is, and seeing if I can connect it and make it a reality for them.
So before we get out of here, how did someone find out more, Jeff? How can they find out more about the foundation, how they can be part of it? You did say you have volunteers.
We do.
There places that people can volunteer to help the foundation, and what's the best way to access that?
Well, first of all, we have a very strong volunteer program at the hospital, and that's run out of our community relations department at the hospital. So if you ever want to volunteer in the hospital or within one of our programs, I can connect you to that, and it's on the website. The foundation's website, you can get there a couple different ways, but the easiest one is adventisthealth.org/rideout/giving.
Oh, Okay.
So you go to the main AdventistHealth.org/rideout/giving, and that'll get you to the foundation webpage. And the other areas, we do a lot of fun events in the community to raise awareness and support, and volunteers power those events. So our golf tournament, we have 40 to 50 volunteers out there making it happen. And our event coming up in August, the 26th, Dance with Our Stars, we'll have another 30 volunteers from the community out there putting that event on out at Hard Rock, making that event happen. It doesn't happen without volunteerism, and that's an important thing that everyone can give.
Yeah. We notice that here. As a matter of fact, it's a volunteer that is recording this right now.
Absolutely.
Taking care of that. So we appreciate that. Well, always appreciate volunteers. Any last words before we get out of here?
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Fish. I mean, I think the reality is that you have a lot of nonprofits in the community, and the Rideout Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit. And nonprofits, they don't always have the marketing budget and the dollars, and nor should they be spending a considerable amount of the donor dollars on marketing and publications. We want to make sure the majority of what comes through the foundation goes back and is put to work for the charitable purpose it was intended. So we appreciate you giving us a voice, and you being here as a nonprofit radio station, giving other nonprofits a voice in the community. So word of mouth.
Probably partial.
Word of mouth can do so much,
but I probably am.
Yeah, and I think that's we don't buy a lot of expensive ads. We don't do a lot of expensive advertising for the foundation. We really rely on word of mouth and people sharing the news when you can.
Now, come up, I think, August 15th, we're going to have some of the dancers on our morning show on 93Q. And they'll be on there to talk about Dancing with Our Stars, which will be out at the Hard Rock, which I think it's, I think these things are fun. They're exciting, but they're beneficial. They're not just up there dancing. There is always something behind it. And I think nonprofits have an ability to kind of move down some avenues that corporations can't always move down. And they do generate support that may not come any other way. And so there are tickets available for that event. Where can they get tickets?
Yes, absolutely. You can go on the website and buy tickets for Dance with Our Stars. You'll see a lot being pushed through social media from our different stars pages as well. The Dance with Our Stars is AdventistHealthRideout.org/Dance with Our Stars, all spelled out. AdventistHealthRideout.org/Dance with Our Stars. It's not Dance with the Stars, it's Dance with Our Stars. So these are our community stars. We have a nurse, we have a plumber, we've got a dentist, we've got a respiratory therapist, we've got a realtor, we've got celebrities from all corners of our community who are stepping outside of their comfort zone to showcase what dance skills that they've learned over the last 6 months on the stage on August 26th. So it's a fun event because they're all dancing for an area that they're passionate about at the hospital. So street nursing, mental health, emergency department, respiratory therapy, cancer center, women's imaging center. If you're passionate about any one of those areas, you can support one of the stars dancing for that area and know the money's going to go to a good cause over the next 6 months to support those programs.
Well, Jeff, thanks for coming on. And I want to thank the community. You guys are amazing. You consistently meet needs. I'm very grateful for nonprofits like this that have, like the Dancing with Our Stars. It's a win-win. You get some entertainment, and one area or multiple areas get the desperately, and I use that term purposely, needed funds to move things forward for healthcare. Sometimes we think we've got the best healthcare in the world, and we may have, but technology changes and things are changing in such a way that it can always be better. So again, this is Fish speaking to you from In the Tank, and we'll see you on the next one.